So, I think we can start. It's 2 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, here and online, I welcome you to our session on data competencies, training, education, qualification for researchers and data stewards. And my name is Jens Dirkes. I'm from the University Library of Cologne, and together with my colleagues Jochen Ortmeier and Uli Sachs, we will present you now from a national perspective the initiatives on training and education that we are carrying out in Germany within the framework of the National Research Data Infrastructure, the NFDI. But we then would like to zoom out a little bit, as we heard yesterday and today, that there are many initiatives going on also with the EOSC, and that the interoperability, the interfacing between all these initiatives, also regarding training and capacity building, it's important to get an overview of what's going on in the European landscape. And for that, we have invited a panel of 4 experts that I'm very happy to also welcome today to have a look at this situation from different perspectives, from funders' perspectives, from educators' perspective, from infrastructure perspective, and also in a certain way from the research perspective in the form of our moderator of the panel. So what we will do is first give you a little introduction about NFDI and our activities there, and then we will zoom out, as I said, to have this panel discussion. We will use Slido, not just for your questions, but we also have prepared some polls that we want to use to get your feedback, to get your ideas about training activities, and share your knowledge about this with us, which we'll then also use to compile in our outcome document afterwards. So later on you will see also the Slido on the screen, and then we have the panel, and we will open the panel also to you, the audience, online and here, very, very quickly, I think. So let's start with NFDI. So what is the National Research Data Infrastructure? You probably know this, but for those of you who haven't encountered NFDI yet, it's a kind of a framework, nationally funded, so from the government, from the federal and state governments, to build up a data infrastructure for Germany that enables data as a common good for excellent research. And this build up is actually driven by the scientific communities. And so there are currently, as you can see, 26 consortia, so consortia working in a specific domain, working on building up this data infrastructure on many aspects. And of course, ultimately these infrastructures or these initiatives should merge together to really build one or a single NFDI in terms also of interoperability of the data, and therefore also a number of cross-cutting topics are emerging, of course, actually to build this interconnected one infrastructure, and these are taken care of in so-called sections within the NFDI. And you will hear about one section about training and education, but there are also others concerning legal aspects, metadata, and also technical infrastructures. And we have brought 2 examples from these disciplinary consortia today to you, to show you what we are doing on the level of a single consortium. in terms of training, and then we zoom step by step out within the NFDI, and then we go to the European perspective of what's going on. And I would like to start briefly with NFDI for Health, which is the National Research Data Infrastructure for Personal Health Data in Germany. And well, our mission is to increase the value of research in epidemiology, public health, and trial-based medicine by making high-quality data, which are already there, internationally findable and accessible according to FAIR principles. So this is briefly what we are dealing with. So in terms of health data, of course, we are dealing also with very sensitive data. So that is why also we are not only 17 partners that are building up the national data infrastructure for health, but also we have a number of data holding organizations, which you can see here on the image on the right side, that are participating and trying to share their data within our federated infrastructure. And in terms of training education, we are not just building the infrastructure, the federated infrastructure, but we are also involved in capacity building so that users of our infrastructure can make really good use or have a good understanding of the underlying concepts of data management to use health data. And we also focus on not just the end users in the sense that they are making use of our infrastructure, but also in terms of building the next generation of data-savvy researchers so that they can really have an understanding of what data management in their specific contexts means. And we have kind of two strands that we are working on. One is a cross-domain graduate program called Data Train, which really tackles the fundamental skills from PhD students in terms of data stewardship and data science, which is which is running in the University of Bremen, but this is open to other institutions, and also the concept itself has been published to be reused and implemented at other places. And we also, on the other hand, we are working on, of course, training materials that can be used for PhD students, but researchers and data stewards themselves actually to make good informed use of our services that we are developing in terms of search portal, for example, publication guidelines, verification guidelines, legal aspects, and so on and so forth. And we are also involved in the section EduTrain and ELSA. So these are one of these cross-cutting topics that are being addressed. And that's a very brief introduction to what we are doing in NFDI for Health. I'd like to hand over to Jochen.
Okay, thank you. Also welcome from my side. The National Research Data Infrastructure for Chemistry, NFDI for Chem, is another example. And we want to cover the whole data life cycle from the design of an experiment over the data collection, data processing, analysis, then publication, and also reuse. And therefore we have several offers like electronic lab notebooks, repositories, standards. And our partners are scattered all over Germany. When it comes to training and education, we have several offers as well. There are RDM entry-level workshops for chemists. Then we have several workshops for the electronic lab notebook ChemOcean. Then a more general, it's the NFDI for Chem Stammtisch. It's for presentations and discussions on various topics. It's more for experienced users. And then, of course, the curricular embedding, another important topic. So the integration into curricular teaching to train the future researchers. Yeah, and as you can see, teaching and training is an important topic in not just the two consortia we had as an example. In fact, all NFDI consortia address data literacy. So it's a cross-cutting topic. And therefore the section, as Jens told you already, the section EduTrain was formed. It's a place to bring together people from all consortia to discuss and harmonize all approaches and solutions to education and training. And if you're interested, there's a concept about the work of the section online. Yeah, and that's the current structure of the sections. We are doing a lot of target group and requirement analysis. There's a collection of teaching materials, so people come together monthly to present about their offers, what they have in teaching, and and then there are also certificate course discussions and about training formats and so on. Yeah, and people from that group then formed another project. It's DALIA. It's a knowledge graph for RDM educational resources. And it's for fair data usage and provision based on semantic web technology. That means there will be a recommendation engine on the website to help the user to find the best training material for them. Yeah, and DALIA is connected via the sections in the NFDI to the NFDI itself, and we are trying to provide teaching materials or to collect them and make them available for all career levels, for all RDM levels, and also for all areas of science. And it's not just meant for Germany, it's meant for everyone. Yeah. And if you go to search.dalia.education, you can search already for 300 to 400 training materials that are online. And we are happy for every new material. So if you have something, send us the link and we will see to connect it to the website. There are contact possibilities on the website. And hopefully beginning of next year you can put it yourself on the website. But for now it's just kind of prototype website, so we have to do this. Yeah, I guess I will hand over to Jens again.
Thank you, Jochen. Just briefly, just before zooming out, actually, from NFDI for Health, we also publish our materials as online education resources, and we are currently in the process of publishing this also, or referencing this within the DALIA knowledge graph. But when we now take a step back and zooming out a little bit, so take the European level, then, I mean, during this conference, I guess you also realize that there are many initiatives ongoing in terms of training and education, and I just put on here a few examples, so this is not meant to be complete, and so you can take your favorite initiative, name it down there. But there are also different levels of where these activities going on. So either, let's say, on a probably more strategic and European level, high level, let's say. Then there are also activities on a European level that are more targeted towards implementing training activities. And then there, of course, are national activities that cover a wide range of disciplines and very targeted discipline-specific activities. So there's really kind of a multi-layered approach. And the idea now is, when we're switching to the panel, actually to sort this out and find a way or find ideas on how to move forward in bringing all these initiatives together, because I think there's much of a potential in that. So we said that we want to use Slido also for polls. Perhaps take a photo of the QR code, and maybe we start while setting up the panel. I think I start a question on Slido on what other initiatives do you know of that we haven't mentioned right now. So it's kind of a good opportunity now to collect, to take your wisdom and collect initiatives that are there and that might could be talking to each other. So I just started the poll, and now I would actually hand over to Ulrich to introduce the panel.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Ulrich Sachs. I'm a medical informaticist by training, coming from University Medical Center in Göttingen, and representing NFDI for Health as well. So this initiative you just heard. And we raised some questions already we want to discuss here with a wonderful panel. So we start with Konrad Förstner. He will talk about certification, about carpentries. In the previous session, we talked about carpentries and how they could be connected to different ones, to different trainings. Then Jochen Ottmeyer, we already heard. He will talk about a little bit more about EduTrain, about cross-disciplinary networking, which is a challenge and the beauty of the national research data infrastructure. And then we go international with Celia van Gelder from Netherlands, about not only about health array, I heard, it's more about the national initiatives. And then from Aneta Pasik Aibar, we didn't train this, but from Poland about EOSC SB, EOSC A, more from the funders perspective. So I think it's a wonderful set of perspectives we got in here. And we start with Konrad. So Konrad, could you please already go up and with your short statement? Yeah, maybe from left to the right. Microphone should be there. So please give us your perspective and your quick thoughts. Yeah.
This works, yeah. Yeah, I see one of the biggest challenges that we are facing right now in order to really roll out the capacity or the knowledge and the skills by really changing our curricula. It was mentioned already slightly in the beginning here. In order to train the future scientists, we actually have to transform how we educate them. This means in the times of studies, people have to be already trained in proper research data management. And that is kind of a chicken-egg problem, because we bring now these technologies to these people who should do this in practice and then teach this to the students, while not everything is there. And this RDM training, or this data literacy training, and actually also computational thinking is nothing that should be an extra subject. This needs to be integrated into everything. That makes it very hard, because in principle you have to touch the whole curriculum in order to implement that. And that is quite a challenge, I would say.
And so then people are qualified and certified to do research data management? Correct, yeah.
That would be ideally, right? You get your certification that you are educated in this, and only then can actually start on the jobs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So this would be from the beginning, like somebody being freshly educated, graduating from some university. And so we got another perspective, as we heard from Jochen, because this is the Dahlia project is explicitly for people coming from other situations, from other roles. And everybody of us has to learn about research data management. We all have to learn about data management plans, whatever we did before. So Jochen, could you please give us your perspective? So there's a second microphone. Yeah.
Yeah, I talked already a lot about what we are doing. Maybe to add also to what Konrad said, in NFDI for Chem we did a community survey in 2023 and asked the participants, would students and the working groups at your institute benefit if data handling, data literacy would be part of the curriculum, and 86% answered yes. So,
did they know that there would be an exam?
no, but yeah, and it's so.
So, and we see this in the DALIA project, the Data Literacy Alliance, which is explicitly for all levels of knowledge from, you know, I don't know anything, or I am already working in it, but I want to relearn it, and in order to get some funding money, for example. So, okay, thank you. So next one is Netherlands, and I like it a lot because we've been cross-talking since 10 years with the Health Right project in the Netherlands, because they had a wonderful program for data stewards, data stewardship, and a handbook. I think it's been the first one I was aware of in Europe. And so, Celia, please give us your statement.
Thank you. Yeah, so I want to, when asked to make a statement, I would like to talk a little bit about how research, in fact, has changed. And I think research nowadays is really team science. And that also means that we need people with different skills. And that's, of course, is also close to my heart, but that's why I wanted to talk about the data stewardship role. And I'm talking from the Netherlands perspective, I think, but it is shared in other parties in Europe, of course, and worldwide. I think we really need to, this is a new professional role. And as I look in the Netherlands and also in other countries, we have really, as part of the Open Science program, we have activities going on to make sure that there are enough data stewards there. We have defined a competency framework. We're setting up national training and a curriculum. And not only that, I think the next step is, and that also touches to the work, for instance, the task force that you mentioned, that Jens mentioned, the EOSC task force for data stewardship, which I was co-chairing. The next step is actually to also make sure that those people have a proper career path in their organizations. And I think in the Netherlands we have since 2021, and I think we may be the first ones to really have a job profile description in the university roles. I think it's good that this is supported by open science plans in the countries, but I also think it needs to be deeply embedded in the organizations themselves and in the data policy and the HR policy. I don't think we are there yet. I think we need much more data stewards than many of us think, and maybe not data stewards only with that description, but also in that role, in a data stewardship role. And I think we need them both on a generic level, we need them in the disciplines, deep in the disciplines, so the discipline-specific ones. And then I think they can also play a really important role in not only supporting the researchers, but also in training them, because I totally agree with the previous speakers. I think basic RDM skills needs to be part of every scientist's education at this age.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. I think those basic skills should be there everywhere, no matter in which discipline you are. We just heard from chemistry, from medicine. The basic skills are the same. So actually, who actually does know the data stewardship handbook from Netherlands? It's in English? Nice, look at it. So people know it, you can download it. It's been one of the first ones.
I want to mention, I think it's not only the Dutch work, we also did for the competence framework, we did this together already in an Elixir context.
Oh,
we
yeah,
already
okay.
took, you know, some European partners on board.
Very nice,
and,
okay.
I think that's the only way to work together. There's so much that needs to be done.
Okay.
So,
thank you. So we have to complete our panel. So I'm happy to add the funder's perspective. I'm Anieta from National Science Center in Poland. She's situated in Krakow, as I heard before. So your short statement, please.
There are indeed a couple of challenges related to RDM. So basically, I would like to focus on the basic one. In our opinion, I mean, what we see as a funder, today we heard many times that basically our goal should be to make researchers happy. And what we see as funders is that DMPs don't always make researchers happy. So basically, because it's perceived quite often as a kind of administrative burden, administrative form that needs to be filled out. basically would like to change this kind of thinking and basically to treat, to instill in researchers that DMPs is an output of reflection on the processes that should be implemented and are strongly interconnected, inherently incorporated in the research process itself. So for this reason, we think that there are two kind of areas of activities that should be undertaken. So on the one side, on the one hand, this is the training program, the proper training program for both researchers in RDM, but also for data stewards. And secondly, this is also the process of transformation of the roles of the universities, where the structures can be better adapted to the requirements related to RDM. It's not only about the data stewardships, because we know that also other departments at the universities, they are somehow involved to different extents in the processes related to data sharing. So basically, we think also it's important to discuss how to start and to make sure that this process, this change can be sustainable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So our panel is complete, so maybe we can switch to Slido to see what's going on in those questions. So I got questions for you before we all go into this funnel. I don't know if it's the research data management funnel. So we heard about different initiatives. So you just briefly introduced your initiative. But so question I always pose to myself is why do we need this training? So we need it for professional careers, but I need it as a researcher. I need this qualification and certification in order to work with data, to apply for data, to get access to data. I think that's the main reason which is motivating me, and I'm much annoyed. So I just recently applied for UK Biobank. So it was the process is very transparent. So you give your research goal, you tell what you want, you have a lay summary, then it goes through the user and access committee, and at one point you have to pay some money, all given, and then at one point then you have to do a mandatory training in order to show that you're qualified to work with this data. And at this point I asked myself, how could I be qualified by 3 video lessons? And am I really more qualified then? Wouldn't it be more desirable to have some core qualification like data management plans, some data privacy, etc.? And how could such a curriculum look like? So the question would be or if maybe we start in the opposite direction, which qualifications would you expect from a scientist in order to get some grant money, or in order to get some access to the data, or in order to be a data steward? So what are maybe the 3 main points for those?
So on the one hand, as a founder, we require DMPs, but DMPs, they should lead to the outputs as the for data, which is being shared. So on the one hand, we want to see the data that is shared is of quite high quality, that it can be reused by other researchers. So this is very important for us as well. But on the other hand, we need to have in mind that also the data is shared in line with the highest ethical standards, legal requirements as well. So this also requires a proper training and sometimes support from the data stewardship or from the lawyers who also know the aspects related to data sharing as well. What is also important from our perspective as how to teach, how to train the researchers and data stewards, basically we think that a kind of triangle here of the different types of methods is needed. I mean, on the one hand, this is the formal education with the formal curricula, and for instance, the RDM is a part of the PhD students, program. But on the other hand, there is also like non-formal education, as such as the massive open online courses or webinars, different types, during which, for instance, certificates can be obtained. But also what is important is the informal education. And for this, we see especially the role of the networks, different types of networks, experience of learning from each other, especially in such dynamic era as RDM, because there is a lot of changes undergoing, and we think that this kind of approach actually provides possibly the best outcome.
Okay, so you would provide a certificate then for the participants? Might be a little exam?
Yeah, I think this is quite, I think that we live, as I said, basically the RDM era is quite dynamic. So even if we graduate from university, we are like professional data stewards, but on the other hand, the environment is changing, the standards might be changing as well. So in order to be kept up to date, it's necessary actually to have this kind of certificates that show at which level actually we are. And also on the other hand, it also shows in which professional way the data steward is trained, because we need to have in mind that data steward might have some different types of responsibilities.
And I wouldn't even know what a data steward would be, because there's so many flavors of data stewards. So maybe Celia. So you're how would this qualification profile look like for a data steward?
I'm not going to answer that question. No, but I think it's a very valid point. I think, first of all, in the formal education and people, the next generation, this needs to become part of like the university trainings and the bachelor and the masters. But the other thing, lifelong learning, I think is something that we are all involved in and we need to learn. And I think also if you look at the task force for the EOSC, what we did, I mean, we know that what we all want and have been trying to push also to the EOSC and for the SRIA is to get a consensus about a core curriculum. And we have good hope. We know now that in one of the upcoming calls, there will be a call targeting that. So this is a need that is felt by everybody in the field. What should be in there, I don't really know. I cannot really, but it will be core elements that we kind of all agree on. And I think if I look, for instance, what we're doing in the Netherlands, we have a course which already for 10 years, which was like essentials for data support. And with the fund, we did this all with 4 organizations that we have been doing this all in kind for 10 years. And now we recently got a grant from the Open Science Funding, and we will build a national training and community platform. And there, one of the assignment is to define the curriculum together, to make it matching to the university job profiles I just mentioned earlier, and also to work on some certification. But they asked us, it was more about certification of, we're thinking more on the badges level, because we think like really in the Dutch it's called the CROHO, so really the accreditation, the master degrees. This is more the responsibility of the universities. So we are looking on the level of badges or micro-credentials or things like that for the courses.
That's beautiful. Maybe they even have an expiration date, so you have to redo it after 2 years, like you do it with good clinical practice, GCP certification.
It's true. And one last thing, I think we will also define this curriculum and the mechanism to certify it together with all the stakeholders in the Netherlands that are involved in these trainings. So this is a long process, but we're setting the first steps.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a quick look at the Slido that we can switch to the next one. So we see a lot of NFDI, EOSC, University Research Data Management. So the question was, which organization do you belong to and what is your role? So we see library is obviously more than 5 hits, pretty cool. Data stewards, RDA, yeah, interesting. So nice crowd here, so thank you for participating. And here we go on with Jochen. So how would you see such a qualification profile? How could it look like? Should it have an expiration date? I like this question.
I don't know if I can answer that. For me as a chemist, it should be normal to deal with the research data on a daily basis. So in the daily work, it should be normal to deal with the data in a fair way. And therefore we need proper training, and it should start right from the beginning. And therefore it has to be in the curricula. That's maybe not that easy, since these processes take a lot of time. But for NFDI for Chem, we work together with the National Society for Chemistry, that's the GDCH, so the German Chemical Society, and they have recommendations for bachelor studies, and we could manage it in 2021 to get data literacy in there. So they recommend that it is taught in the university.
We do this, something similar in medical informatics and biomedical informatics, but I think we should align to the European catalog. I like this idea a lot, as soon as it's possible to align it. and maybe to have some kind of granularity, what's more important. And I agree, the research data management plans, they're really important, yeah. So as the questions are rolling in, which level do we start training? RDM, Bachelor, Master, PhD? So answer was quick. Ideally, but as you remember this slide we saw before with Idalia, so I think we have to offer this at any level. So I'm a professor of medical informatics and I'm learning every day. So I think even for my peers and my colleagues, there has to be training material that they can learn, and not only to delegate it to the incoming bachelor students. That would be the wrong way to do. So Konrad. You look at it.
So, in terms of how such a course would look like, or how such an education would look like, I can just turn on. Yes, it is okay. Actually, I can refer to the certificate course that we have. Actually, for that, we have in Germany, or we started this actually in North Rhine-Westphalia, the initiative for RDM in North Rhine-Westphalia. The University of Applied Sciences in Cologne and ZBMed, we have actually generated a certificate course that is running on for the third or fourth time. It's 10 months long, and we have actually a curriculum in there of starting to code, but also licenses, and there's a broad spectrum of things covered. And still, I would refer a little bit also here to the phrase that was in a different room used today. We're building bridges while, or we're learning to build bridges while learning about how to do that, right? This is a moving target. And while we have maybe today a set of training topics that needs to be there, this will might look very different in 5 years already. So it's something that we always need to question, and this is also why I like actually your proposal to have a expiration date on that, and after 2 or 3 years we have to retrain people, at least in certain aspects. So without diving in precisely in all these topics, we need to be aware that this is a changing thing actually.
Okay, so you got an addition about expiration date, yeah?
I wanted to mention that because in Poland we also we launched last year the massive open online courses, which are available on the national platform for massive open online courses, and they are like two for data stewards. One is at the basic level, the other one at the intermediate level, and this is the same for researchers. One is at the basic level, the other one at the intermediate level. So basically these courses were available like for over a year, but we need to have in mind that indeed, this needs to be updated. So now we are working on an update of the content. They're not major changes, but anyways, there are some details that needs to be revamped. So basically we are going to relaunch the second part and the second edition. But I think that indeed, 1 year is actually quite a long period.
Wow. But
we see the changes happening, for instance, in the EOS context.
Then I'm asking the question, who is providing the material? So I once, during COVID, I did provide one online class on privacy on open educational resources. This was a pain, I must say. So now I wouldn't like to update it every year. So it has to be done. So the question would be, who would provide this content, which has to be updated every year? So maybe to Jochen and Konrad, so are people volunteering and saying, please take my material in your portal that it can be used, or is it rather the other way around? So
yeah, so I can maybe project something to the future, because we just got maybe a little bit of background. Jens gave already here a nice introduction to NFDI. There are also so-called base services, and we just got a base service for RDM training for NFDI. So that is actually the aim, actually, to compile core content that then can be derived for specific fields. And that would be one source. Clearly, this is always living also by material that is out there, that is hopefully already educational resources, and that can be funneled in there. Because there's so much out there. It's amazing. It's the hard work is actually
But how do you know which one is good and suitable for you?
That is actually hard work of exactly selecting and matching this also into a big picture. But I would say that we have a very strong community that is actually capable of doing that.
In Dahlia, we thought about an Amazon-like system with stars. So everybody who's using material could give 0 stars or 5 stars comment. I think this would be a nice regulation.
That was my answer.
Oh, so I apologize. But Celia. Yeah.
No, I was actually wanted to bring in another aspect, because I think we can think about all the skills that we want new researchers, you know, to know about RDM. But the fact is that often there's only very little time to teach them something in the programs, and it's not easy for people to make place for that. So, for instance, in the Netherlands, several graduate schools now have already like this introductory course in RDM as an obligatory thing for new PhD students. One other thing, if you're very short in time, and we have done this, for instance, within 2 or 3 Marie Curie ETN networks, like give them an introductory in RDM. And you can talk about very fancy things and about implementation of FAIR and everything. And sometimes I think we're a bit living in a bubble, because I think basically if you have one afternoon, and we had that, and then what do you then bring? And for me, it was also very important that we really want to work to getting in their minds that it's more about, also from the data capture side, that they already start with their experiments, and it is not fancy at all. But if you divide your spreadsheet differently then, or you decide within the consortium together how to do the data capture, that's already a real great step. And it's nothing about fair data points or whatever, or very fancy things, but I think these are kind of the basic skills that are really easy to get it across, and that is already makes it.
I totally agree. That's the first thing. So if you're working on data, I think from minute 1 on, you have to think on that you want to share data. So it's called the willingness to share. I think something we have to spread around the community. Yeah, Konrad.
Yeah, just as an add-on, and I think this has to be in more minds. You know, I'm working also on knowledge graphs and all this kind of fancy stuff, but in the end, it's very boring stuff, unfortunately, but which is important. Standards, good formatted tables, where people agreed on.
Right,
it's so simple, and that takes out of a lot of pain, but this is everything. Not only in science, it's also in administration, right? If there would be simple and boring standards, we would be so much better, not this high-flying stuff, right?
This actually answers one of those questions. So what should be offered for different career levels? I think for the first one, for the data capturers, there should be the perils of ETL, for example, of extraction, transformation, loading. Most accidents happen there, by the way. Data capture is really dangerous. And for professors, what should be offered for professors? So maybe some questions here. Well, I'm a professor. I wouldn't have time for 1 year schooling, whatever. But I think for science management, there's a lot of things. Science managers and professors in this sense are science managers. They have to know. So there's the new regulation, for example. This should be spread there, yeah.
I mean, for the professor level, the awareness is, I think, the most important part. You have to ask your people in the lab, when they submit a paper, where's this put? Where have you put the data? Where have you put the code? Where is the output? How is this documented? And these questions don't have to be answered in detail, or have to be answered in detail by the people who are doing this. But you have
this
to have
was already a ball played to Celia, because I think for professors it's important to know that it's not a student worker's work, data management. Say, I'm going to employ a student worker, they're cheap, they're going to do it, so they're going to hire another one when this one is gone. This is a career, this research data management. So, Celia.
Yeah, no, one of the things is that we really would like to get in the minds of the professors and the PIs, etc., is that what we see is that very often the data stewards who are in place, who are there to support the researchers, they still have to convince them that it's useful and that they come help them. And I think it's more from the top in the university or in the institutes or from the PIs, if they were really convinced or are aware, as you use the term, that the data stewards, it shouldn't be necessary that they also need to do the convincing. So there is needed more support or awareness of that this is just obvious that it's needed.
Or more time and recognition. I think that's really important. Including the question, so should somebody preparing the data be on a publication or not? So that's a very difficult question. And I think in most cases, those people are not on publication. If they're lucky, then acknowledgements. We thank for the for the work on the data for XYZ, but they're not the authors.
And there's also, but that's one other example. I don't know how that is in other countries, but there's also a discussion going on if these people are in the academic staff system or in the supporting staff system, and that there's all kinds of consequences for their career tracks too. And this is not solved yet, at least not in our country.
Last question for the panel before we open to the audience. How do we come to scale? So I'm always concerned that those programs are so small. So I'm a part of a doctoral network, and we educate the sheer number of 12 PhD students, and wow, 12, so it's better than nothing, so they're spreading the word. But the question would be, do you have any ideas how to scale up? So you told about massive online classes, could be one way. So.
To be frank, we were a little bit surprised with how popular these were.
Okay.
Yes, so over 5,000 people got subscribed.
5,000, that's
5,000 people, exactly, researchers and data stewards to these 4 courses. So basically, on the one hand, we are happy to see that it fulfills a need that is indeed at the academia. And on the other hand, we are hoping that this will really increase the competences. But what we think was important is that we use the national platform for this massive open online courses. So basically, this is a system that provides the different functionalities. So there is like the content for the courses, there is like the proper examination, there is a certificate. So it's like a fully fledged, system platform that allows for creating, this kind of content.
And how is it funded? How many FTE?
This is from the Ministry of Science funded, the platform. But the MOOCs, the platform itself, but then the MOOCs, they are created and funded by the producer. So they need to apply either to the ministry for funding, or there might be other sources, for instance, European funds, to create this kind of trainings as well.
I like this idea of the national platform. So, silly.
Yeah, one other mechanism of scaling is, I think, of course, to train the trainer. So if we need more people to be trained, we need more people who will be able to do that. And I think, for example, like in Elixir, we have started to train the trainer already since the beginning, since now a 10-year program. If we look at Skills for EOSC, they also have this master training concept as an essential thing. And that person will then, then at least you can raise the numbers. But I think e-learning and MOOCs and things like that should be part of that, because if you see the estimations of number of scientists that need to be trained, we cannot do this face to face.
Yeah, so Jochen, statement on that, or Konrad?
Yeah, I have to say it again. We are doing these online courses and certificate course and things like that, but I have to say it again, it has to be as early as possible taught.
I agree.
And with that, it will generate awareness automatically.
Yeah.
When the people moving forward in their career, they learned it and they will do it automatically. So it's...
Yeah, and the carpentries are train the trainer, more or less, So quick comment?
Just very briefly, I think we need a mix of everything mentioned, because some people like, for example, introduction first in person, and then they are willing to also go online. So we just need the full spectrum of everything, basically.
I just saw a question I don't like. So the second, whoever is anonymous, should we turn all our researchers into data stewards and software professionals, or instead separate literacy from stewardship? I don't like this. So because my experience in the medical informatics is that I'm more on the data producing side, preparing this data, cleaning the data, doing 80% of the work. And then the data scientists come in and say, hand me the data. It should be in tabular format. There shouldn't be missings. It should be all cleaned up, and I'm doing the rest. I don't like this. I'm really getting mad about that, because I think there should be some handshake or some overlap between the data producers and the data stewards and the people doing the analysis. Because if you would separate it, like it was maybe a little provocative in there, if the data analyst doesn't know the process where the data comes from, what was done before, so it wouldn't work. But maybe that's one. Maybe I'm the only one being concerned about that. So are there any reactions? Maybe here, maybe in the audience? Yeah.
Uli, I'm fully aligned with you here. Yes, we can, for example, the topic of software or also the data stewardship. Yes, we need professionals who are really deep there and are specialists, but we cannot afford people working at the bench as scientists not having a clue about this. So we need at least awareness and a basic understanding, and there's clearly a gradient in between there where you have to be depending on your research, but we cannot afford people walking around without that knowledge.
thank you to Anonymous for this question. So, Cecilia's reaction?
Yeah, also, if I may, we need to remember that the researchers, from the perspective of a project, the researchers, the PIs, they are responsible for the methodology, for collecting the data or reusing the data. So basically, they need to have this knowledge because they are the ones who have the full knowledge about the process from the point of view of the research. And the data stewards, they are here to support the researcher, but they cannot just replace them.
Yeah. Okay, so audience, there was 1, 2, 3. So here in this third row, and then.
Hello, it's Paul Butler from Springer Nature. Thank you for that talk. Do you think moving forward it's going to be more of a uniformed approach to how we handle data or specific to what the research topic is? And I link it to the attraction to actually completing courses, doing the training. So financial data, would that help you later on in your career to get a job in finance? Environmental data, health data, or is it more of a blanket approach that makes things more simple?
So who wants to answer?
So basically, we think there must be a set of basic skills, the basic knowledge. So the MOOCs, for instance, that we launched, they are exactly created in this kind of on this kind of way. But we also aware that then we need to go deep dive into specific, like topics, problems that they appear in, for instance, particular disciplines. So that's why we're also running separate trainings, webinars. Where the researchers who are experienced in data sharing, for instance, together with data stewards, they present how to cope, how to deal with specific problems that may happen, that may occur in the specific projects. So we think that both are needed.
Okay, does it answer your question? Halfway.
Yeah. No, I can quickly add on that. For us, it's the same. So we, in the national curriculum that we're now going to build, it will be more the generic data stewardship. But then, on top of that, and building on that, with learning paths from the basic to the discipline-specific, the different domains will build the follow-up courses. So I think, and then we hope to have really, looking for a course, can make the learning path from the basic generic skills to his or her domain. But that is the future where we're working towards too.
Okay.
Nothing really to add, just another image. It's basically literacy, right? You need to read, you need to be able to do some math, and this is foundational. This is everybody needs. And then you have maybe more math for people in physics and more people in biology. So, but we have a core set of skills people have independent of the field.
Okay, thank you. Then the question on 4D, yeah. So.
Yeah, Sandra, I'm also working with the National Research Data Infrastructure in Germany. And this question goes to the training curricula in the Netherlands and Poland for data stewards. Because, you also mentioned, okay, we need to get into the heads of the PIs and the professors, and everything that's behind it is kind of, there needs to be a change, and there's always the expectation directed to data stewards to bring this change, to be agents of change, for example. But are they actually taught about, for example, change management methods, or how about to communicate to different stakeholders? Because I think these kind of soft skills, it's often these curricula about technical skills. Do you have this in your curricula for data stewards?
That's an excellent question, and at least also in our data competency framework, we also have the soft skills in there. So if people want to make trainings for that, I think that is really important element. And in another context, we're working also in what we call thematic digital competence frameworks, thematic digital competence centers in the Netherlands. And there we also have data stewardship interest groups, and they also share with each other what the challenge is. And one of the challenges is exactly what you say, that how to do that, how to convince my supervisor, how to convince. And so the peer learning there is also very important. It's called the Data Steward Interest Group. But yeah, we're also working on this in the training materials themselves. And I think soft skills are crucial.
Okay, that's actually reflected in the last question. I like that one. Data scientists are often hired for IT for research-like service, but often also know nothing about active research. Are they the first customers of these courses? I like this a lot. That's exactly what I told before, this overlap, that everybody has to think in terms of the other persona. What would a researcher need? And a researcher actually has to know how difficult it is to clean up the data, I think. So what's your take on that? So would there be something, so for data scientists which are very technical, in order to train them how research processes work? I guess that was the key of the question. So, difficult question, that's a tough one. So mostly, so I just can tell from my projects, those people are in all the meetings. They're joining the journal clubs, for example. So I'm in a huge project where we had a kickoff yesterday on gastroenterology, on pancreatic cancer. And so all the IT staff and all the data scientists have to attend those meetings in order to understand the vocabulary, the words, the concepts. And I think this helps a lot. To use the same terminologies. I think it wouldn't scale for all projects, but this helps a lot to understand and try to understand the concept in research. Yeah, and then you're actually on the publications because you can contribute something to the research. Maybe that answers the question halfway. So we got time for 2 more questions in the audience, please.
Hi, it's Jordi from the ESRF. It's a question for Aneta. You mentioned MOOCs, and my question to you is, are these courses fair, open, reusable? Do they have an MIT license? Can I just take them apart and reuse them for our users?
They don't have an MIT license, but they are on CC BY license, which I think is also quite common. Yeah, common Creative Commons. Basically, they are free of charge. Anyone from any country, from anywhere, basically can enroll, can register, and can use these courses. I mean, basically, just need to have in mind that, as I mentioned, I mean, we completed the first edition. Now we are working on the update, and then the second edition will be launched on the 2nd of December this year. And the certificate is also free of charge to anyone, but we need to have in mind that they're in Polish. So
that's what I wanted to say.
I forgot to mention this.
There was something on it. There was something.
But there might be an opportunity to translate them into English, and and this is what we are actually working on to get the funding to translate them into English, because we see that indeed the Polish version was a success. So we are thinking about making them accessible also for those who don't speak Polish.
Quick question, in Netherlands, is it English or Dutch, both?
We have the course I was just talking about, Essentials for Data Support, and we do it face-to-face. But the materials are also online, and then you can do it in your own pace. You miss, of course, the group work and things like that, but then it's free of charge, and it's in English.
Nice. Konrad.
I really like the question if the stuff is fair, because most of the training material is not fair. It's often not really open. And even if you can download the video, in a way, we're wasting a lot of time, because I could take the Polish original material and just translate it to German, don't have to take care of the figures and so on. And I would love to see this happening, actually. There's so much stuff happening in parallel, and we have to reinvent the wheel. Although I could take let's say, the Dutch version and the Polish one, put this together, and my own side put the German or English on top of this, and this is not happening. But please, please, please do that, and I have to do this myself as well.
Okay,
but that is a very, very important point to raise, I would say.
Okay, we're already at the end of our time frame,
so
please,
make a personal
absolutely.
Statement? Basically, I think that these kind of courses, they need to be in English. Basically, but there was a kind of discussion with other important third parties, let's say, and where it was, let's say, the question was discussed in detail. But indeed, I think that the first thing is that we should really think about not only about our national context, but the researchers who speak English already, data stewards as well. So I think that English should be the primary language here, probably.
Yeah. Okay, so we are wrapping up the panel. I hand over to Jens, but not without thanking the panel. Thank you very much for your nice ideas.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Uli, for moderating and the nice discussion. So was a really interesting discussion to talk about the granularity or the gradient between basic education and then more specific expert education, thinking about the multiplicator effect in terms of train the trainers to propagate training towards the communities better, and then of course the team play between data stewards and researchers in the scientific endeavor. And then we had nice examples also from Poland and Dutch, Netherlands, where we really see also implementations on specifically data stewards. I think that was very enlightening, and so we try to put this all together, the discussion and the questions that we asked you. And yeah, thank you very much. And we hope you have... Yeah, thank the technicians and the organizers helping us making this session possible. And you, the audience, for being here. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.